Hello friends, back again. Now Roxy's Journal of Stitchery Volume 7 was a very different one for me. And what I've done is laid out the big piece that I'd basically put aside as a 2 hard basket. And I've put my little once a month panels on it. And I thought I'd like to see how it looks, and I've moved them around a bit. My original vase of flowers. I mean, I still quite like it. I just haven't got the embroidery on it that I would have liked to have done. And what I'm thinking before this next prompt is I like the idea that they're like little windows, or they're like little paintings sitting on the table. What I'm thinking though, even if I trim them back a little bit so they're not a bit skew-whiff and all over the place, I might just couch down the edge of all of them to make it like, you know, like a frame all the way around, maybe with something like sari silk. So that's an idea I've got, because I think once this prompt's finished, there'll probably might actually be 4 weeks of finishing off time. Not sure if this prompt is May and it goes for 3 weeks or something. As with Rachel's one, I'm thinking also that up in this top corner is the one blank spot. Now I could keep everything in line with the, you know, the rectangle, but I think I might follow and do a circular thing up in the top corner, like a, you know, like a boating window or something up on the wall. So unfortunately I've got I can't pan, if I pan back you'll be able to see the leg of the chair and the corner of Lily's Pilates reformer machine that she just had delivered and was hoping to have upstairs, but it's ended up being a bit big to get up the stairs. So I'm going to go off and sort out my circle and I'll be back. Okay, so maybe let me know in the comments what you think. It would be interesting to hear some opinions. So I've basically worked out that this corner up here fits this. I've got a giant teacup. It always gets cold before you can finish it, but it's still very pretty and very nice. This plate though is about the right size. I don't think I'd want it bigger. So I'm going to grab some tracing paper, or this is actually a very, very, very cheap kind of greaseproof paper. It's not even a very good, no, it's not a good baking paper at all, but it does for a pattern. Put something hard underneath, which might be a bit easier. I mean, it's just as simple as that for a circle. It's not hard at all. So in my sketchy fun book, I've been doing some little circles. I want to do little embroideries, and I think I like this one. So I have colour photocopied them so as I've got a reference outside of my book and away from my book. And what I've also done is scanned them in and put them into grayscale. So I've got a better colour tone. So if I don't use these colours, I've got a better idea of lights, mids and darks. So dark on the stem, dark over here. It just helps. It's a good little tool, but these are obviously a lot smaller than this. So I think what I'm going to do is transfer a sketch onto here of this one. I like this one because it's got the bleeding hearts, and I love fuchsias. Fuchsias are one of my favourite flowers, so it's got the fuchsia on there. What I'd also like to think about is having a border. So the question for me is this the outer edge, or am I going to do another circle that's out to there, or will I pull in about 1 centimetre and do a circle here, and then that's my cutting edge of my material. I think that because this is pretty tiny, I mean, I could make quite a decorative border and do it same scale, but I think I'd like to redraw it, because when you draw it by hand, they always, you know, they always change. I should measure that. So what I'm doing here is just measuring about 1 centimetre in. I decided to do the inner line. And then I just join, basically it's like join the dots all the way around. Okay, so with the power of YouTube, it is now cut out. And we've got an outer circle and an inner circle, yet to be decided what's happening, but it may just stay blank because I've drawn these up to the line. So fuchsia has a bit of an end like that. Gosh, I love fuchsias. Very kind of long, so I don't want to mark that one. I just was using this one for a bit of white. Let's do it this way because I'm happy to mark this. So I'm doing it roughly, but if you have a kind of a grid line, probably should have done that before. This is not absolutely perfect, but what I can do is mark a similar grid line out on this bit of paper. Right, so I've started with my fuchsia over there, and that'll just help me get my bearing on the lengths. If it's a absolutely perfect rendering or sketch, you might want to measure these. I'm just doing it. That gap's really large. But it'll give me enough to get a light sketch down. Somewhat like that. And because it's freehand, it doesn't have to be exactly the same. It just has to represent what you're wanting to draw. I think that's a bit longer. So you can see that there's more of this edge here than here in terms of the lines, but it's just given me a bit more perspective in terms of where this flower sits. So another little petal here, then we've got stamens. They're very pronounced on fuchsias because they hang right out there. Love them. Can have probably a few more. So I might want to neaten up and use my rubber and neaten it up a bit, but it'll do for now for just mapping out where I want things. So there's, let me see, there's this bit of branch. This is like a nasturtium leaf on its side here. This comes all the way over down to about there. This one comes over to about here. I'm going to rub out these pencil lines. Nothing's a mistake, everything's perfect. and that's not as thick, but I will go over them darker so I've got a bit of a template. This has got a bit of a leaf here. Bigger. And we've got these bleeding heart flowers. Beautiful flowers they are. They have started out smaller and not opened, and coming up and getting slightly larger and slightly more open. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 1, 2, 3's about here, 4's about here, 5's about here, 6 is about here. A bit more open. Very pretty flowers. Funny sort of cross stamen on the inside. It's a bit interesting. This is quite a big, large, darker green leaf. Just make that a bit more like it's coming out like that. I've just drawn it straight there. That wouldn't be how a leaf would be. Got a little curly bit of a leaf, bit of a shape. Actually comes down to a bit more of a point, and it comes up behind these. So I've got to get a bit rounded, a bit more rounded here. Like I say, I will be neatening it all up. This feels a bit like Chinese whispers, but I don't have a blow up photocopier, so it's how it's going to be. Just a few stems off to the side, the back of the leaf, and one stem that is a flower. Okay, so depending on what the background is, oh, that's a big gap, and I just noticed there is a flower there. So this leaf joins here, and that flower comes off this stem and over that bit there. Okay, that's just way too wibbly wobbly. Oh, I love this. Okay, here we have it. Now the next step I'm going to be doing is check how thick it is and start to I don't need to necessarily do this line, but definitely straighten some of these. Oh, I said straighten. I can't even draw a straight line to help myself. I was pressing too hard and I've got to turn it. Okay, let's try that again. Wow, this is a wobbly surface. I was not expecting it to be so wobbly. Okay, I feel that that was a mistake to use such a thick texture. Okay, once more the magic of YouTube. I have redone it and I've used a much finer tip, so much happier with that. Okay, so I've got a very fine bamboo hoop on the back. See, it's not very thick, and I just find occasionally if you're coming up to the edge a bit that a thinner hoop is a better idea for your embroidery because you're not just getting that chunky in the way. Now, this does fit onto here pretty well in terms of my outer embroidery line. If I'm doing this as a border, this line is well enough inside the hoop that I'm not going to have that issue. The other thing I'm thinking is if I'm cutting the batting to this size and I cut the pink bit a bit bigger, I'll be able to do little snips, tuck them under, and then stitch it down under the batting. So it's got, you know, a sort of an edging all the way around. And I may in fact couch that edge down onto the piece. So my plan is to use a bit of this carbon paper, get it all situated, but I cannot do it at the moment on this. I've got to take this off and get started. So I'll just get that all set up. Okay, so I've put it on a harder surface and I'm going to start. I'm still going to put this line on, and I'm just using a ballpoint because it's got a sort of a relatively strong sharp point that won't change. I just want to show you, don't want to get it off too much. Let's see, that's the line. So I'm going to continue doing this and going round. I'll probably go and take it to a more comfortable surface to do so that it stays flat and nice, and I'll be back. Okay, just finishing it up. I'm only doing the little sticks here rather than the actual circles on the top. And let's just take it off and have a look. Sometimes you have to have a little glance halfway through to make sure you haven't missed something. And aside from the little circles here, doesn't look like I've missed anything. So now it can go back in the hoop and we'll be ready for embroidery. So this is quite a cheap hoop actually, the bamboo one. So this is a bit flimsy, but if you're only using it for maybe one thing and hanging it up, it's probably fine. I think I've used this once before, so it's still usable. I'll try and get it as centered as possible. Let's see. It's pretty close. This is the only bit that went off the carbon, but visually you can see this line and just imagine it meeting up. I'll tighten this up. I'm going to get that fairly firm. Now I am ready to start. I thought I'd have a little look back through my pieces. See, this is an Appletons and it's a chain stitch. That's very, very textural. So I definitely think in a bigger spot like the fuchsia that'll work really well. Of course, the fuchsias are a particular colour, but I am definitely thinking I want to try and get a bit of this olive greeny sort of colour in, and just to pay homage to each of the things I've done. So definitely there'll be greens. So this is once again a chain stitch. There's this yellow and this green on here, but it might be worthwhile making sure that I possibly use something like that colour thread for the fuchsia to bring them all together, or even a red. I mean, fuchsias come in a few different varieties of colour, so that's not unwarranted. And then there's the pinks, and then there was this bit of dyed material. I've got texture throughout most of these, which is good. That's the idea, isn't it? This bright yellow, I definitely think maybe the nasturtium for that. So I'm going to go and grab a whole heap of things, probably get started and then come back. So just before I bring back where I've gotten up to, I thought some of you might appreciate seeing this. I have occasionally, say once every 3 weeks or once a month, been going over to my friend's. She's been doing a very big clean out to do a downsize, and she just likes to have someone there to have a chat to her while she's doing it, or she won't do it. So I've been doing that, and she's given me this. I said, oh, I want the paper bag, but I'll throw out the contents. But she's travelled a bit. She's in her 50s now, so she's travelled a bit prior, you know, maybe through her 20s and 30s. And someone must have given her this when she went to live in New Zealand for a while, or in America for a while. She's had like a year here or a year there. And I thought you might appreciate how funny it is. Maybe Australians will find it funnier than people from overseas. We've got an Australian flag. We've got a tea bag called Outback Teas. I don't know how old this is. There's no date on it. A match. Oops, just thrown it. Just creating a bushfire over here, throwing that match around. Where did it go? Oh my goodness, just went right on. Oh, it's right down the crevice at the back there. Let's just forget about that for now. Oh dear. It's all laughs around here. Okay, the match is over there. Hopefully there's nothing that sets it off. The Vegemite, well, if you are not from Australia, most people try it and absolutely hate it. This is so old. They don't make these little, see that little bit there? They don't make those bits anymore. It's that little peel off the side thing that they do. But that's really old. That in the bin. But funny, in the bin. A little echidna on a badge. Keep that. That's cute. That's probably so old I should throw it out. Or I might use the paper in a junk journal. No Tree, No Me, Save the Koala. That's a removable tattoo. I'm going to give that to the little boys next door. A couple of gum leaves. I know I've said the story before that when my children were smaller, I needed a mental health break for a little while, and I went to England to visit the Rellies. Also, I missed travelling. And when I came back to Australia, one of the very first things that I cried about, believe me, I mean, it was so good meeting relatives, but the first thing I cried about was when we went with the kids to the zoo and I smelt the gum trees. And I went, you know, all my life I thought England was home, and now I've been there and I've come back to Australia, and Australia is home, because I've been here for all but 2 years. I was here 2 when I came over, so I've been here for much more time than you know, so 50, 60, how long have I been in Australia? 61 years. There you go. How's that? In fact, we came in April, so yep, 61 years. That's amazing, isn't it? I mean, I still have a passion for England, and being born in London is quite cute. So the original pavlova recipe, and if it's a postcard, so I'm not going to throw that out. That's wonderful. The original pavlova was made for Dame Nellie Melba after Anna Pavlovna, but I believe it was made for Dame Nellie Melba, the opera singer. It's just very funny. Anne Geeds, I don't know if anyone, so that's just a birthday present. Anne Geeds is a New Zealand photographer who specialises in cute baby photos. This is pretty old though. No date. No date, no date. So I've got no date for any of these, but isn't that adorable? These things will be, that's going to the kids. I don't know if it'll still work. Some of these things will be fun to put in my junk journal. My current one is one, I've got two on the go. I've got one that's for sort of daily collages and ideas, and one that's, I'll do a video. I will do a video update. I like to do a little update on my junk journals. Anyway, that made me laugh, and I've got totally off track, but I thought perhaps you would find that amusing. So here I am. This is where I'm up to. What I found, I started here getting a nice sort of soft sort of yellow orange, and then I used this green, and I got to about here and realized that was all I had of it. So I found a green close enough, and this is all done in Appletons so far, and I've decided that it was a variegated thread that now I thought about this and thought this is all very kind of one-dimensional now. So I'm thinking when I've got this all finished, my plan is to get a little bit of a tan or a brown Inktense and just wet very lightly and just do some bits throughout, just so as it doesn't look, you know, too different from the rest. However, I think I'm glad I started it up here because it makes sense that it blends with that orangey yellow colour and that it's just sort of at the tips. Then I got to the leaves and thought, what am I doing with these? This one I've mixed a bit of this Appletons with the pale yellow that I showed earlier. Mixed them together to show the back of the leaf. So by the time I got down to here, I thought, well, I've got a slightly darker Appletons, so I'll use that. And I've used the darker Appletons with a little bit of this colour embroidery floss, so that it's got a mixture of two different strands through it. Then I got to thinking I still have quite a bit of this left, but I won't have enough to do all of this solid. So this is where I've got to. I thought I'll do this. Now these are all in long and short stitch throughout, and then this is, you know, the way you do a leaf, side by side by side by side by side by side. And because this is a nasturtium, I was thinking about how nasturtiums can have very patchy leaves. Because I knew I was possibly going to run out of this Appletons, I'm nearly out of it, what I thought was I would do this solid, and then I'll do this a bit patchy, and then start with another lot of Appletons to blend it in. This has got one strand of Appletons and two embroidery floss. And I am thinking that if this Appleton runs out and I start on a different grain, what I'll do is blend in that embroidery floss as well, still another, you know, 2 strands, and that way I can keep some harmony, you know, some color harmony going, some continuity. So that's my plan. I'm just thinking the main thing is getting a whole heap of different greens so as it's not just all the same. I really enjoyed just sitting down and having a good old stitch, basically. So I'm being a little bit sparing at the moment with this, just because I have this biggish leaf here. And then when I get this all done, I'll be able to get started on another green. So I think I might end the video here and get a bit more done and come back with the next installment. Now I still plan to be doing long and short stitch over these, but I'll be bringing in another thread over the top. So I would like to say a big hello to new subscribers and old subscribers too. Hello everyone, and thank you for being here. Really appreciate your company, and I will see you in the next one. Bye for now.